Alright YouTube, so for this drawing I drew the Amazing Spider-Man himself, Andrew Garfield, in the Amazing Spider-Man 3 movie pitch Jones style that I'll be talking about this for this vlog, but supposedly it's somewhat confirmed that Amazing Spider-Man 3 is not happening, which if that's true it will be a shame, but sometimes it's cool to leave some things to the imagination and fantasize and hypothesize about where that universe could have gone, which is exactly what this vlog is going to be about. So to start, the Amazing Spider-Man 3 probably would have come out about 10 years ago, I'll say, so that could have been definitely really cool, but also 10 years, all things considered, isn't a super long time. Like, even for Spider-Man 4, which fingers crossed might happen, but I'll talk about that later. So 15 years for the Amazing Spider-Man, no wait, let me rephrase that. 15 years for Spider-Man 4, 10 years for the Amazing Spider-Man 3. So pulling them together, and we got the Amazing movie Spider-Man No Way Home. Sorry, I'm terrible at movie titles sometimes. So, I predict the Spider-Man Brand New Day might be the conclusion of Tom Holland's Spider-Man movie, and that Tobey Maguire's character Spider-Man will likely die in Avengers Doomsday or Avengers Secret Wars, whichever comes first in terms of Tobey's character. But point is, I don't see him doing like a Spider-Man 5, or if we see Spider-Man 4, it will have been what Spider-Man 4 was originally going to be, which is honestly exactly what I wanted, because I think all things considered, they could just use makeup, prosthetics, effects to sort of give it the 2011 vibe that the Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man 4 is going to take place in. But probably if that'll probably just be, fingers crossed, a movie we get, and then pretty much his arc is concluded with the Marvel Cinematic Universe New Avengers movies. That's basically my prediction and best case scenario I view it. But what's to come of Andrew Garfield? Will we see a Spider-Man in Brand New Day? I doubt it. Will we see him in Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars? I also doubt it, but I do know he has, a little bit of a iffy reputation on telling the truth about his appearance in Spider-Man movies. As we saw, he was insisting, and he had to, that he wasn't in the Amazing Spider-Man I'm so bad at movie titles. He wasn't in he wasn't in Brand New Day, but he wasn't in No Way Home, which he ended up being in, and it was really cool to see him again. So I do think we should see the Amazing Spider-Man 3 and maybe even the Amazing Spider-Man 4, because maybe it could be exactly what we need, is 2 more Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies if Tom Holland's movies come to an end, which I predict they will. And I remember when I first saw Avengers 2012 in the screen, that that was the same year that the Amazing Spider-Man 1 came out, and due to conflicts with Marvel, Sony, and however the hell that works, Spider-Man was not an Avenger. Not that I feel like he would have fit amazingly in, but he definitely could have been a cool character to see. So if they do sort of a soft reboot of the Avengers and whatnot, I do think it could be cool to see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man be the lead Spider-Man, because first of all, I know he's like 42, but he doesn't look that at all. If anyone could look young Spider-Man, it's Andrew Garfield. And as you can see, I also drew him in the symbiote Venom-like suit, which I would love to see his interpretation of Venom. I sort of have mixed feelings about the Tom Hardy Venom movies. I like them, but don't really care for them that much, so I would love to see a cooler maybe version of Venom, or maybe Tom could come back as Venom, I don't know. But what I do know is I really want to see sort of other characters, because I didn't love the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I did find a lot of the lore fascinating around Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, and some of the Green Goblins. Like, I would have maybe liked to see a Hobgoblin or the classic Green Goblin, because Dane DeHaan's Green Goblin, Harry Osborn, was a mess, and maybe it could even be cool to give Garfield's character a new sort of similar character to Harry Osborn. That's sort of his best friend. Thinking about it, maybe that's what his Flash Thompson could have been, because as much as I love the original 3 Spider-Man movies, I will say their Flash was definitely not great compared to Amazing Spider-Man's Flash, although I do like most of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man lore more than Garfield's, but I like them both. And I think even if they just, make Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield's real age, I think that could work perfectly well too, because maybe his Spider-Man, similar to what people want with Tobey Maguire, to be balancing out as a father and husband. Who's to say that can't happen with Andrew Garfield Spider-Man? And I gotta stop showing this drawing, so I'll show some other drawings, because that's the conclusion of this vlog. So speaking of which, this is a little avatar character. So yeah, overall, that's a little break from the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man drawing. So I will say there's definitely a ton of things I'm excited for in Brand New Day. Especially, I've heard Sadie Sink's character can be a shapeshifter, because everyone's predicting her to be MJ because of the hair color, and then she comes out and says people can change hair colors, which is very true. So I haven't been following who I think her character will be, but I am willing to bet it's somewhat of a shapeshifter character. So it could be cool to see shapeshifters in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, as well as Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. So overall, I really hope they make something with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man that isn't just a documentary. I hope we see him again, because I don't want No Way Home to be his ending to his story. Even if we don't technically get The Amazing Spider-Man 3, I'd love to see some version of The Amazing Spider-Man return. So until then, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned more soon. Goodbye.